I am Jimbo Paris, and you are listening to The Jimbo Paris Show. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is Jimbo here, and today we have a very special guest, Urmi Hossain. She is basically a very, strong women's advocate. She is the social lead in women's leadership. She focuses a lot on sort of speaking out for women, representing women, especially in this day and age, and sort of helping to be a role model for a lot of women out. So, yeah, let's bring her on. How's it going?
Good, you?
You doing good?
I'm doing good.
So, Mrs. Hussein, my first question is sort of, what do you do?
I work in the financial sector, but I do a lot of things on the side. Some of the things that you mentioned before are related to women's empowerment. So I do a lot of advocate work for women's empowerment. So I'm part of this organization called Women in Leadership, which is an organization based in Canada. And they have several chapters across all Canada. And I'm part of the social media team. I'm the social media lead, so I do a lot of promotion of the events that happen. And besides that, I'm also a mentor for another organization called 100 Women in Finance, where I mentor young talents who want to work in finance and study in finance. I'm also a self-published author. I published my first book last year. It's called Discovering Your Identity, a Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. So I talk about myself being a third culture kid, and I do a lot of things related to self-development and personal growth. So I'm part of the Toastmasters Club, where I get to work on my leadership and public speaking skills, and they help me to be a speaker as well.
So, what got you into self-development?
I think I was always unconsciously doing self-development, like without realizing that I was actually doing all of these things. I think my very first step towards self-development started when I joined the Toastmasters Club because I had this end goal in mind, which was to give a TED Talk eventually. So I knew that I had to work on my public speaking skills and leadership skills and build confidence. So I would say that was my very, very first step when I joined the club, but I never actually paid attention. I never thought it was part of my self-development or personal growth until I thought about a couple of years later that was like, oh no, this is part of actually your journey towards growth. And then after that, I would say that I moved on towards other things, like reading, for instance, was also part of my self-development. And I read constantly. I read fiction and nonfiction, and I always have this thirst for knowledge. I would say I'm always looking to learn. And I then realized after doing a lot of self-work that I am a long life learner. I do like to take each day as a learning opportunity. So I every day I always try to learn something new, whether it's through a book, whether it is through, let's say, a podcast or listening to a TED Talk. And then, of course, in my whole journey with personal development, then it shifted towards other things, such as, doing boxing. That was something completely new. So those are some of the few things that I do.
Did you just say boxing?
I did say boxing. I did.
So, what got you into boxing?
I would say, so we have to go a little bit back in time. It started with Muay Thai, which is very similar to boxing, but with Muay Thai, you do both, you're using both your arms and your legs, whereas with boxing, it's more your upper body. So I think I was following someone on Instagram, and I was also got inspired by my sister who was following the same person who does Muay Thai. And then I followed this girl, and I was like, oh, you know what? That would be something interesting to try. And one of my friends used to do Muay Thai, and never in my life I thought, okay, I'm going to do this, because it was self-defense. I was like, this is dangerous. What if I get beaten up and stuff like that? So I was like, I'm not going to do this. And then I was like, you know what? They had classes for women. They also had mixed classes. So I was like, let me just try and how I feel about it. It's like getting out of that comfort zone and follow your intuition, follow the curiosity, and see where it leads you. And I would say it was I was just in love from the first time that I tried Muay Thai. And I did that for 3 months, and I loved the workout because I was like, this is a stress releaser. I feel myself as a fighter. I feel stronger mentally and physically, and then I had to stop, and so I had to stop and switch to another type of workout. So I found this boxing club where I go and box once a week, and basically they teach you like you do a lot of, it's a full workout of an hour where you do like a warm up, and then they teach you shadow boxing, then you get impaired, then you are like punching the other person, and then you have a boxing bag that you're punching, and they teach you all these different techniques. And I like that. I like boxing because I feel like I'm just releasing everything out, and there's a fighter in me that I'm trying to build. So I very much enjoy it. So it was just getting out of that comfort zone, I would say.
So do you think boxing might have helped you in your career path involving women's leadership? Do you think that sort of helps you empower yourself?
I would say boxing is pretty much the last thing that I did throughout this whole journey of women's empowerment. It's pretty much the last thing. So I would say it was more like the other things helped me to do boxing. I would like it's getting the confidence and getting out of my comfort zone that helped me to try something new. So boxing is pretty much the last thing from my personal development journey because I recently started.
Now, you mentioned getting the confidence. Were you always a confident person? Who was Mrs. Hussein before she started?
Was I a confident person? I mean, you have to ask some of my friends. I think when it comes to confidence, it's something that probably some people have it within them. They just didn't take the time to cultivate it. I think I was never insecure of myself. That's for sure. Probably sometimes I would be shy to reach out to people, to speak in a podcast like this, or to do YouTube videos. I think I probably had it always within me, but after going most likely to Toastmasters, it really helped me to be a better, like to have that confidence that it just tells me don't be afraid of trying new things, just go and throw yourself out there. So I think it was just something that I had to cultivate through time.
So, do you have any advice that you could probably give to other women watching this in order to sort of discover themselves and try out new things just like you?
Yeah, definitely. I would say there are many things that one can do to, to become more confident, to try new things out. First thing first, I would say when it comes to personal development, it's always a conscious effort. It's like conscious action that you're taking towards that end goal or end destination. So you have to be aware that what it's like, yeah, you want to say I want to become a better speaker, but it won't happen unless you take actions towards it. And so it's about like effort and time and making conscious actions first of all. So you have to be aware of that. You have to have proper goal in mind, but a goal that has a purpose. So for instance, I can give you my own example, which was to give a TED talk. And so for me, that was my purpose. But for me to give a TED talk, I had to work towards it. So I'm still working towards this, and that's how I joined Toastmasters. That's how I try to get myself out there and speak in every opportunity that I can. And if you have a purpose, if you lose yourself during this whole journey, you can go back to it and think of your why. Why did I start with this? So it's always there as like a reference so that you don't lose yourself. The other thing I would say it's, and we often hear this, I think people are not aware of it, but when we say, oh, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to go to the gym, I think that's just an excuse. Like every time you have to be aware that it takes time to build personal development. And I think you have to remove from your like memory, not from your memory, from yourself, you have to remove this sentence, which is I don't have time. We all have 24 hours a day, and it's just about prioritizing yourself and doing what matters for you. So when it comes to personal development, and you have to know how to manage your time properly. And so don't say I don't have time. Just, try to have a calendar maybe where you like allocate the time, like allocate 30 minutes for something. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. It can be really an hour. It could be 10 minutes. And, it's not just about public speaking, but it could be like learning a language, for instance. And you don't need to put like literally 5 hours. It's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. Do that for yourself. And it's really for yourself, and it's not for anyone else. And then I would say the other point is to remove, like to do, like don't use limiting limiting beliefs, where you're like, okay, I'm not capable of doing this, I'm not good enough. Try to reframe your sentences in a more positive way that will help you to achieve your goals. I think that it's a good, like, it's a mental work that you have to do for yourself. So you have to like shift your mindset towards saying like, yeah, I can do this, I'm good at this, I know I can work towards this, I have, the power, the confidence to be a better speaker, things like that. So these are some of the things I can definitely suggest.
Excellent. Those are a lot of good gems you got there. So I think we could finally begin to hone in more on you as a person. So what is your purpose? And how does your purpose sort of manifest in your business and your brand and in what you do and sort of what you really want to put into this world?
So I don't have a business. I just want to make this clear. A lot of the things that I do, it's more like following my passions. And I think, and everything that I do, like even my blog, YouTube channel, the volunteering, it's just following my passions. I don't do this, like no one is paying me to do this. I'm not turning this into a business. And I would say my purpose is probably to find the potential in people, because and I think it was just a lot of inner work that I had to do with myself, because I feel like I get to talk with many people through like volunteering activities that I do, through my connections. And one thing that I noticed that I do well is that I'm able to pinpoint some of the strengths that people have, and I tell them like, take time to develop that and see where it can bring you, because I feel like personal development is also about living a fulfilled life. And so, for instance, I have a friend who loves photography and he loves taking pictures. And so I told him, why are you not taking some photography classes and see where it can lead you, because he very much enjoys doing that. And so I feel like my job is to do that, to identify like the strengths of people or the hobbies that they have, and to turn it into something better so that they can live a more satisfied and fulfilled life.
So you said you're good at identifying people and sort of finding what they could do, so that's a skill in itself, though. So, how do you think you discovered that skill of yours?
How I discovered that I can identify strengths of people, you mean?
Exactly.
I'm not really sure, I have to say. I'm not really sure how I developed that skill. I think it's a lot of active listening that I do. I think I have this tendency. I mean, I work on active listening through Toastmasters, and they teach you like how to, listen actively. And so I think based on the conversation that I have with people and just listening to them actively, that's how I'm able to like identify their sparkle. I'm not even sure how I developed it, to be honest. I don't know. I wish I had an answer, but I actually don't know how I developed it. I think it was just I don't know, something within me that I had to find out, I guess.
So, when you're finding out yourself and you're discovering your skills and strengths, what specific things that you do in Toastmasters that sort of help to bring that out? Were there any struggles at Toastmasters? Were there any, I don't know, do you have projects there? I've never been in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
How did
Yes.
that all work?
Yeah, so basically, I can give you like a really quick overview of Toastmasters and how it works. So it's a nonprofit organization, and which is known worldwide. So every country has a Toastmaster club, every city has one, every area of your city has a Toastmaster club. And basically what happens is each club, they meet on a regular basis, whether it's like once a week, twice a week, and they meet for an hour or two. And it's the meeting happens in a group setting, whether it's hybrid or it happens like just in person or just online. You're meeting with a group of people, and everyone there is there for the same purpose, which is I want to become a better speaker. What people do not know is that Toastmasters is not just about public speaking. It's about leadership skills. It's about critical thinking skills. It's about analytical skills, because there are a series of roles that you have to deliver. So there is the role of the thought of the day, the toast. Then there is the role of the Toastmaster, the general evaluator. So each person takes on a role, and they have to follow a script and just deliver basically the mini speeches, or they have to deliver a speech. Once you sign up to the Toastmaster Club, you basically got to sign up to a pathway program. So in this pathway, there are a series of projects that you have to complete, and each project has a different objective. You have like a time limit. It tells you what to do. It tells you if you have to work on your body language, if you have to work, let's say, on your gestures, vocal variety. So each project is tailored to a specific need that you're supposed to be developing. And then what happens is you deliver the speech and you are evaluated by someone. And it's Toastmasters is all about, giving feedback and giving constructive feedback so the person can improve for the future speech. So that's how it works. You work on your prepared speeches, but you also get to work on your impromptu speeches. And that's when, someone randomly just asks you a question and you have to be able to come up with a mini speech that you have to deliver within 2 minutes. And so you have to be like really prompt, really quick to come up with a mini speech. And that's how I would say a lot of people, like journalists, or let's say when you're doing an interview, that's when like no one tells you the questions ahead. You have to know how to give a proper answer, a proper speech in those few minutes. So that's how they help you to work on. And for me, it was very scary at the beginning. I was scared to hell when I first joined Toastmasters because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I was so scared and very nervous. I remember my first time because they told me to present myself. They were like, okay, tell us why you're here. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what you're trying to get out of Toastmaster. And they called me to do a mini speech. And I remember being a disaster, but people there are there to support you and encourage you. So no one will make fun of you. It's a judgment-free place. I consider these people like family because they really help you to cultivate these public speaking skills. They want you to be better. They give you feedback to be better, and no one will ever yell at you or lecture you for not delivering a proper speech. And so I would say that a lot of my confidence, I got it from there by showing up for myself and showing up to work on my goal. So that's a little bit about Toastmaster.
So that's all really interesting stuff. And I'm thinking here, what type of scores did you get? Because did you get specific scores for signs, body language? What was the one that you struggled with the most, that you sort of had to overcome?
So no one gives you score. You're not getting a note from you're not being graded. You just get an evaluation form where they write comments. So everyone everyone who's participants in the club, they will write you feedback, what went well, what could have been better, and points of improvement. And one of the things I would say that I struggled the most was with my voice, because we used to meet in person and we were in a small room. But every time I would speak, people on the back had really hard time hearing me. And so every single meeting, I would get the same comment: you have to project your voice. And they told me you have to use your diaphragm, it has to come from inside. And every time I watched so many videos about it, and every time I struggled, and I was like, I don't know if this, I used to yell, but it's not about yelling. It's not, you're not supposed to be screaming or anything, it has to come from inside. And so that's one of the comments that I heard the most. Every time they were like, yeah, we don't hear you enough. You have to really project your voice. Because at the end, when it comes to public speaking, it's not about what you say, but it's about how you say it. So projecting your voice towards the back of the room is very, very important. Because you can say great things, but if people don't hear you, then it's pointless. And so I had to work on that. And then the whole pandemic happened, so we met online. So it was very hard for me to use that skill or work on that while we were meeting virtually.
That's very good. Yeah, you do have that type of voice, I could tell. But
Thank you, I guess.
yeah. But I'm just curious though. So you said Toastmasters was sort of about becoming a leader. So how did you sort of become, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but how I see it, sort of a leader of a lot of these women within the community? How did you sort of go into that position?
Okay. So one way that Toastmaster helps you to become a leader is by becoming part of the executive team. So one thing that people do not know as well is that once you are part of the Toastmaster, you officially become a member. Okay, which means that you are entitled to give proper speeches, you're entitled to sign up to the pathway. But there is a group of people behind the scene who are actually working to create the agenda, to get members, to promote the club, and that's where the leadership skills come in. And so one thing that I haven't told you is that I'm the VP of education of Toastmasters for our club in specific. So every week I'm basically like sending the agenda, reaching out the members and asking them, okay, do you want to give a speech? I try to send them some tips or resources that I come across during my week, and I try to send them to them. And that's how leadership skills, you get to work on your leadership skills, and you can transfer these skills in other aspects of your life, whether you're working, in the corporate job, or whether you're like working at home, you have to divide tasks with your partner, things like that. And the whole thing with like women in leadership, it came afterwards because I felt like I wanted to empower other women, and I support causes like women's empowerment and gender equality. So I was like, you know what? I have the skills. Let me see if I can apply it somewhere else. And because I have, I believe in these things, these are things that I stand for. I was like, why not look for organizations? So I looked into several organizations, and Women in Leadership was one of the organizations that I resonated the most. And there was basically this volunteering opportunity, where they needed someone to handle the social media accounts. I was like, you know what? Why do I not apply? And then I spoke with a few people, and they were like, yeah, we really like you. So every week I'm like posting about the events that we have. Then we also have meetings with the members of our organization. We are 5 wonderful women, like strong, confident, bold women. And I like that, feeling that you empower one person and the other person empowers you back. And I like that sense of, empowerment and belonging. And so it's being part of a community. So that's how the whole Women in Leadership came in play.
So you mentioned empowering. What do you think empowering and helping women can sort of do for the community? Maybe to stop negative things like violence, aggression, all these things that we have to deal with constantly in our society.
I think, well, for me, when I think about empowerment, like I associate it to feeling heard and feeling seen. And I think as women, sometimes we don't feel like we're being seen enough, and we don't feel like people are listening to us enough. And through empowering, you bring change. So my job is really to use myself as an example, like lead as an example for other women, and to inspire them to take actions also in their life, like to be more vocal, to be advocate for themselves, to stand up for what they believe, to be true to themselves. And I think that's very, very important. So everything that I do is really to be an inspiration for other women. I just want them to like live your life authentically and truly, and always stand up for yourself no matter what. You really just find that voice that you have. Be vocal for everything that matters for you, whether it's like at home, whether it's like when you're running your business, whether it's like in a corporate job. And I think that's so important, because sometimes really I feel like as a woman, we do take an advantage of, and I feel like we're not assertive enough and firm enough to speak for ourselves.
That's excellent. And sort of how do we begin to encourage or make women feel comfortable enough to sort of speak about themselves?
I think the fact of being part of a community, it does help you a lot, because and this is some of the work that we do in Women in Leadership, the organization that I'm part of, is we have a lot of like events, virtual, in person, webinars, workshop. We have a new one coming up, which is a leadership development program, where we gather women all together, and we try to inspire them through our conversation. So it's really like engaging in conversation with other women, hoping that something sparks within them. So that's some of the things that we do, really to make sure that they become a bit more confident by being part of a community, by finding a sense of belonging. Which is why I feel like networking is so important, and I think networking with other female in the industry is very, very important. Finding a mentor is super important, because you can really get so much wisdom and guidance from other women who went through the same thing or going through the same thing. And maybe you can come up with a solution. Like if you're going through something and you're not sure how to tackle it, maybe ask someone who probably, went through the same thing and can help you. And I think there is nothing wrong with asking for help. I think it's always a sign of strength. And it just empowers you by listening by listening someone or just engaging in a conversation.
That's good. And sort of, I'm curious, who was one of your mentors, and how did you find them in your network?
So I feel like I have a lot of mentors, even though officially did not give them the title of mentors. I would say I have three for now, and probably they do not know it. Actually, maybe one of them knows that. So my very first mentor, who I saw as a mentor, was actually my manager, my ex-manager. We used to work together, and I remember I look up to her a lot. Every time I was like, I want to become charismatic the way she is. I want to be a dynamic leadership the way she is. Like, she was just a source of inspiration, just like for everything that she did. And I liked her managerial skills, but more than that, I felt like she was a good leader because she was always like encouraging you, motivating us. She was giving us feedback. So basically, everything that I wanted to become, she had that. I remember I asked her a few advice, few tips for things that I wanted to do for some of the finance certification that I've completed, and she was always like cheering me up. She's like, "Don't give up. I know you can do it." So she has been my biggest source of inspiration, my mentor. And then I have two other mentors who I call them friendtor, which is a combination of friend and mentor,
Oh, I
because
never heard of that. Okay.
these are my friends, but they're actually my mentors as well, because I constantly talk to them on a day-to-day basis, and I'm always sharing things, and they're always like, guiding me in things. Like if I need something, I know I can go to them. And I think when it comes to like mentorship, it's supposed to be a judgment-free place. Like, you don't want anyone to judge you for the things that you do or for the things that you're planning to do. And so
Mm.
these two people, these are my friends, but they are actually friendtors, because they've been there to support me along the way. Like, for instance, I propose ideas on, like, I want to write a book, I want to write this, I want to create that, and they're like, go for it, go for it. And then we help each other. It's a two-way relationship. Maybe they don't consider me as their mentor, which I actually don't mind if they don't, but it's a two-way relationship. They share information with me, and I share information with them. And yeah, so these are a few people that have impacted my life so far.
So you had mentors and friendtors. That's cute. All right. So, but I think, the next thing I have is, what's the future? What are you going to do next?
That's a tough question, I feel like, because I feel like I'm in constant evolution. So if you ask me, let's say 6 years ago, if I saw myself doing all of this, I would have probably told you no. I never saw myself doing any of these things. And so I feel like everything that I've been doing is a trial and error. I like to try new things, get out of my comfort zone, and see how I like those things. And in the future, honestly, I can only tell you that I want to continue doing the work that I do right now. I want to, be part of big organizations such as Women in Leadership, and all related to women's empowerment, because I feel like my goal is really to educate, mentor, and inspire other women. So that's one thing that I definitely want to continue doing. The second thing is that I hope I can give this TED Talk sometime soon. And I know I will give this TED Talk eventually. So that's one thing. So I'm trying to manifest it right there. And the third thing is that I hope I hope to have published already a second book. I want to continue writing. I very much enjoy writing. I feel like it's sort of like a self-healing process, because it's so like you're writing your thoughts. You're like, you're immersed in your own world, detached from everything. And I like the whole process of writing. So hopefully, like, there's a second book out there. So those are a few things that I have in mind for the time being.
Okay. Second book. We haven't even talked about the first. So that sort of goes into my next question. So, like, so what type of products and services do you have? Do you have a website or anything of that sort?
Yeah, I have a website where I post, and I would say, I post twice a month. So basically, every 2 weeks, I post an article, and it's usually things related to, let's say, public speaking or learning a language, career, those type of things. I also wrote some articles about traveling to Italy. So that's one thing that I do, is write on my blog. I also create content on my YouTube channel. So on my YouTube channel, usually I have people coming to my channel and I do interviews with them. So these people are mainly like in the career field, or they are in the personal development field, or in the language field. So I have a lot of content about language learning, because I enjoy very much learning languages. So a lot of the people that I have are language coaches or they are teachers. So I ask them to talk about their services, their products, and also like share tips for people that are learning languages. And then I do have few ebooks on Amazon, and one of them is related to personal branding. It's basically things that it's a book about things that I have learned, things that I have applied myself. And I also have a second ebook, which is about tips for traveling. No, it's about expression that you can use when you're traveling to Italy for the first time. Sometimes you struggle a lot when you're traveling to a new country, you do not know the language. So I wrote this little book, sort of like, a guide that you can use if you're ordering food in a restaurant, or if you're ordering, like getting a taxi and things like that. And then, of course, my book is also available on Amazon, which is called Discovering Your Identity, A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle.
Okay. Well, you do a lot,
I do a lot.
So again, this has been an amazing interview. I definitely learned a lot about you, especially about Toastmasters and sort of what motivates you and what kind of moves you forward. So I've, final question here is, do you have any final words you could say to the audience, maybe regarding personal development, how other women can empower themselves, and how can we reach you?
Yes. So a few words of encouragement. I would say be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because the only way you can grow is when you're getting out of that comfort zone, stepping out of that comfort zone and conquering your fears. You have to do that. You have to like get yourself out of that bubble and just go towards your goals. And for people, if they want to reach me, of course, they can find me on LinkedIn, and it's called Urmi Hossain. I'm also available on Instagram. It's called Urma Mio. My YouTube channel is called Urmi Hossain. And then my blog is called myways.ca.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Mrs. Hussein, for being on the show. It's really been a pleasure. And I would also like to thank the audience here for watching us. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
I'm currently working on a passion project that I'm really excited about, but I need your help to bring it to life. We will be launching soon our very own Jimbo Paris Academy, and this is going to be about aspiring creators and creating concepts. Thank you for your support. I'm sharing free bonus content to supporters, so let's make some amazing content together. Our affiliate partner, LifeWork Systems, focused on helping create a better collegial environment, looking at the mental health of business workers, business employees, and overall bringing the business up. Thank you for listening to the Jimbo Paris Show.